Hello everyone, I'm Adelaide and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you guys another ranking video. I had several of you guys comment on my previous videos that you would like to see the rabbit villagers, and that is what I'm going to be doing for you today. Also, please remember that these are my personal opinions and you can like whichever villagers you want. Animal Crossing is just supposed to be a fun game, so please sit back and enjoy this video. The first rabbit villager on the list today is Bon Bon. She is a peppy rabbit villager and her Japanese name is Mimi. I found this very funny because Mimi is the Japanese word for ear, and it's a bit of a pun due to her really long ears, and her name is also a Spanish mix of chocolate and Catalan chocolat. And I honestly don't think her design stands out to me that much. She's rather simple. I do like that she has the pink blush and the gradient on her arms, but I do think the choice of yellow on her hair and nose is a bit weird, so I'm going to put her in C tier. Our next villager on the list is Bunny. She is also a peppy rabbit. Her design is actually based on the Ringo Usagi, which is a method of cutting apples to make them look like rabbits, which I think is super cute. I also really like the color combination of the really dark orange and her bright yellow face. I think she's a very cute villager. She was actually one of my first rabbit villagers ever when I started playing Animal Crossing, so she has a bit of a personal touch for me, so I'm going to put her up in A tier. This is Carmen, yet another peppy rabbit villager. She has the fashion hobby and she also appears on the cover for KK March. I honestly have to say I'm not a huge fan of Carmen. I think sometimes that the gap tooth can be really cute on characters, but in this instance, I don't really think it works for her. I also think her eyes are a bit of a strange shape. They remind me of commas, so I'm going to put her in C tier. I don't think she's terrible, but I'm just honestly personally not a fan of her design. Here we have Chrissy, and I'm guessing you guys can figure out her personality from her appearance and from the trend that's been happening so far. She is another peppy rabbit villager. I guess the developers really liked the peppy personality for rabbits, but she is one of the two pop star sisters of her and Francine, and she's also on the cover of Bubblegum KK. I have to say I honestly prefer Chrissy over Francine. I like the design of her eyes a lot better, and I adore the polka dots on her ears, and I'm just a big fan of the pastel pink look to her, so I'm going to put her up in A tier. Next, we have Claude, our very first lazy villager on the list. His initial phrase is hop along, and he actually has a unique history in the Animal Crossing series. He only appeared in the early games of the series, but then returned in Happy Home Designer as a DLC, and then he later returned fully to the series in New Leaf and New Horizons. I have to say I'm not very impressed with his design. He's just a brown rabbit. I mean, that's all I have to say about him. I do like his little curly cute eyebrow and his lazy squinty eyes, but I mean that's about it, so I'm going to put him in D tier. Here we have one of the biggest fan favorite villagers in the entire game. This is Coco, the normal rabbit. Her name is derived from her appearance, in which she looks like a coconut husk, and I honestly love that her design is based off of something from real life. They had a direct design point, and I think it turned out really well. Some people were initially creeped out by her holes in her eyes as well as her mouth, but I think since they had a definitive design concept for her, it turned out so well. And I also love that she sort of looks like the gyroids from the game as well, which I think is a really nice touch. So this is going to be our first S tier villager. Next is Cole, a lazy rabbit villager. His English name is supposed to be a pun on the mineral coal, which is a reference to his dark black fur color. And I have to say I really don't like this villager. I don't absolutely hate it. I have seen worse. But I don't understand why he has giant Fruit Loop eyes, and then they also gave him the buck teeth in the middle. I understand that he may have a certain aesthetic that people like, but personally for me, I just find it very off-putting, so I'm going to put him in D tier. Here we have Doc, another lazy rabbit villager. His name is in reference to the famous Bugs Bunny quote, "What's up, Doc?" from America. His name and likeness is also based on Dr. Wright from the SNES version of SimCity, so you can kind of have your own opinion on where his name comes from. I have to say I do really like his color palette. orange and blue are opposites on the color wheel, so they make a really striking palette. And I think that the little circle glasses he has and the tiny eyes really work on this character, so I'm going to put him in B tier. Dottie is a peppy rabbit villager. Her name relates to her large, dark circled eyes and the area on her ears. And in the earlier games, she shared her initial phrase with Ellie, which is a really unique thing for a villager to have. I have to say, I do really like the contrasting colors on her face and arms. I do think that adds to her design, and I do like her eyes even though they are a bit wide and kind of scary. So I'm going to put her in B tier. Next is Francine, a snooty rabbit villager and sister to Chrissy, who we saw earlier. She is also on the cover of Bubblegum KK, and I have to say I found it really interesting that she and Tiffany are the only snooty rabbits in the Animal Crossing series to date. I thought that was a really cool fact about her. But I have to say I like her design a bit less than Chrissy's. I think her eyes are a little bit off-putting. It looks like she's half asleep. And the green nose doesn't really work with her color palette as well as it does for Chrissy, so I'm going to put her in B tier. Here we have Gaby, the peppy rabbit. She has appeared in every single Animal Crossing title to date, which is a really cool achievement. Her name may be in reference to her being extremely talkative. It's a trait that peppy villagers tend to possess. I have to say that I really like her design. I know sometimes I put villagers lower because they have a simple design, but I think in her case that it works. I do like that she has multiple colors on her palette. Like for instance, her ears are that bright purple and her arms are yellow, and then her bottom half of her legs is brown, which I find very interesting. And I also adore that she has the big pink freckles as well as that bright nose, so I'm going to put her in A tier. This is Gaston, the cranky rabbit. He has a French name, and I found it interesting that his quote on his Wikipedia page is "An ear for an ear leaves everyone deaf." So he's definitely a cranky old man. His design is okay. He does have almost the same color legs and color palette as Gaby does, who we just saw. I do think he does have a bit of character with his furrowed eyebrows and the big mustache, but I'm just not a fan over all of the colors that he has, so I'm going to put him in C tier. Next up is Genji, the jock rabbit. He has the same name in both the Japanese and English versions of the game, and his name is also in reference to the main character from The Tale of Genji, which is considered to be the world's first novel, which I found really, really cool. I'm actually planning on doing a video in the future with a villager hunt looking for him, so he is actually one of my favorite characters in the game. I absolutely adore the fact that he has a gradient from his arms and legs, from the white to brown, and I love that the top part of his head kind of looks like a hat. I know some people don't like that, but I think it is absolutely adorable. And we can't ignore the giant pink blush on his cheeks. He just looks like a giant ball of mochi, and I love him so much, so he is going up in S tier. Here we have Hopkins, a lazy rabbit villager. His catchphrase is Thumper, which is the rabbit from Bambi, and I thought that was super cute. I have to say that his design is actually really funny. Like when I look at him, I feel happy, so that's a really good sign. I adore that he has the really wide set eyes and the characteristic cat mouth. You know, like when you draw a cat and that's all you do for its face, that's exactly what he looks like. And I have to say the color blue they used is just a very bright and vibrant color, so I'm going to put him up in B tier because he makes me smile. This is Mira, a sisterly rabbit villager. Her name is derived from the actual giant red star Mira, which is why she has a futuristic theme to her appearance. I do have to say that she is my least favorite on the list. I think her design is actually pretty obnoxious. The color palette they chose is contrasting and it does look like ketchup and mustard to me, and then her outfit makes her look like she's a knockoff Power Ranger. And I also don't understand why she kind of has a off to the side mouth. I feel like that also adds to her character looking a little bit unfinished or strange, so she is going to be in D tier. Next is OHara, the smug rabbit. His personality actually changed from early series games from cranky to smug, and his appearance is supposed to be based off of a vintage islander, which is why he has the typical tropical patterned shirt as well as the straw hat. I have to say though, his eyes are a bit off-putting. It looks like he's seen something that he will never ever forget. But I do have to say that I like the green and the brown together. It's a good contrasting mix. But otherwise, again, he's just very simple in design, so I'm going to put him in C tier. This is Pippy, the Peppy rabbit. That was a bit of a mouthful to say. She is actually one of the villagers that I have on my island currently, and I plan to keep her forever, actually. I absolutely adore her design. I love her blue hairline and the freckles on her eyes. And I actually really like the eye shape on her character. She looks so smug, and I think that makes her really cute. And I adore her little overall set. The only grievance I have with her is that I wish that the overalls she were wearing were a different color. I feel like they don't match her very well, so I'm going to put her in A tier. Next, we have Ruby, the Peppy rabbit. Her English name is in reference to the gem ruby, which is why she has those bright red eyes. But I think her Japanese story is a lot more interesting. Her name is Luna, and her house is space themed, and it's in reference to the moon rabbit, which is a mythological creature in many Asian folklores, which is depicted as being a white rabbit, which I think is a really interesting backstory for a character. And I do love that on her shirt, she has a miniature version of herself. I like to imagine that she DIY'd this and thought that it was the most perfect shirt in the entire world. I do have to say I wish that her nose maybe was a different shape, so I'm going to put her in B tier. This villager doesn't even need an introduction, but I will give him one anyway. It's your boy Snake. He is a jock rabbit villager, and he is made in reference to the main character Snake from Metal Gear Solid. I have to say, whenever I see him, I just smile. His character is just so funny. I love that he has the bright pink face as well as those huge eyeballs. And I love that he comes looking like a ninja. I just think he is such a bright and cheery character. And whenever I see him, I just feel like my world has been lit up. So I'm going to put him up in S tier. This is Tiffany, a snooty rabbit villager I happened to mention earlier in this video. She is in strong resemblance to Audrey Hepburn, who is known for her role in Breakfast at Tiffany's. I have to say I have literally never seen her until I made this video. I think she's a pretty uncommon villager for people to have on their islands, but I have to say I like her design. I think she has a very specific design concept intended for her, and I think it turned out really well. I love the dark red lipstick as well as the fishnets, and I do like that the top half of her ears is a different color. I think she's actually really cute, and I would love to have her on my island if her house wasn't so dark, since I'm going for a bit of a more pastel theme, but I'm going to put her up in A tier regardless. Our last villager today is Toby, a smug rabbit who came from the Sanrio amiibo cards pack. I have to say I was pretty disappointed in his design. I absolutely love the character he's based on, Karokuropi. I hope I'm saying that right. But that is such an adorable character, and I don't think it transitioned very well into Animal Crossing. I have to say I'm not a fan of his color palette. The yellow and dark green really does not mix well, and I think his eyes as well are a little bit big for his face, so I'm going to put him in C tier. If you've watched any of my ranking videos before, you will know that I like to add in who my favorite villager was from the video, and today from the rabbit villagers that is going to be Genji. I absolutely adore his design, and he has such a deep and inspiring background for his design that he is one of my favorite villagers actually in the entire game. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. Make sure to comment who your favorite rabbit villager is below, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!